You been there all through the years, Lucy?
Well, actually, I have gone home, and Andy and I have taken some vacations. One year we went to Bora Bora.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another breakdown of Twin Peaks. Greg and Ryan here. This is part 14 of The Return.
Now before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button because the Universe channel has all kinds of good stuff. We're covering Game of Thrones, we're covering Rick and Morty, and of course we got Twin Peaks.
Alright everyone, let's jump right in and talk about Judy. Oh, damn it, not again. Right off the top, this is my favorite part, I guess. Not episode, they're parts. So this is my favorite part of The Return so far.
I'm a 4 guy, but, you know, tell me, what is it? What is it that did it for you on this one?
The episode was titled, We Are Like the Dreamer, but you can also call this the Blue Rose episode if you feel inclined. Every single scene ends with a weird Blue Rose occurrence. Cole's dream, Andy's trip to the White Lodge, Chad's jail cell experience, Freddie's glove story, Sarah freaking Palmer, and even the Roadhouse scene has a weird vibe to it.
What's your mom's name? It's Tina.
There's also a distinct theme of storytelling in this episode that goes with some of those scenes. In particular, there are at least 4 times that characters tell stories to other characters. Albert tells the story of the Blue Rose case to Tammy, Cole describes his dream about Monica Bellucci, Freddie tells about how he got his pile-driving green glove, and Megan tells Sophie about the night Billy went missing. I think you could also make the case that there is a 5th story told when the fireman, by the way he has a name now, gets Andy up to speed on the whole plot so far. And that theme of storytelling has a lot to do with lore building and world building, and I think that just rests squarely on the Mark Frost side of the Twin Peaks coin. Part 14 opens with a phone call from Gordon Cole to Sheriff Truman. This begins with what has to be the most endearingly typical Twin Peaks interaction between Cole and Lucy Brennan. Cole's conversation with Truman is almost painfully brief given everything the two should be telling each other. Truman does not pass on any specifics of their investigation, does not mention Major Briggs or his notes, and does not bring up the room 315 key. He only communicates the discovery of the missing pages of Laura's diary and, quote, 2 Coopers. Something also worth noting there is that we are still missing a page of Laura Palmer's diary, and that's starting to feel like a weird, fugazi at this point. We're supposed to be thinking about that, and it ain't never coming back. That's gonna be one of the hanging chads of this series. We're not gonna have any idea. In any case, 2 Coopers dovetails nicely into the next scene with Albert and Tammy.
Yes. Albert lays out the history of the terminology of the Blue Rose, tracking it all the way back to a case that Cole and Philip Jeffries worked on involving a woman named Lois Duffy. Blue Rose cases seem to be more than just weird phenomenon occurrences, such as the X-Files, and actually deal with cases involving doppelgangers, or as Tammy puts it,
What's the word? A tulpa.
From a quick Google search, a tulpa is defined as theoretical in nature and originates from Tibetan mythology, where tulpas are described as extra bodies that were created from one person's mind in order to travel to spiritual realms.
Something that I also like a lot about that scene is that the way that Albert talks to Tammy, he tells the story, but then he asks her what she thinks is the most important next question, and that's sort of that mentor style that we actually saw in Fire Walk with Me with Chet Desmond and Sam Stanley in their car ride.
That's awesome.
So it's cool that it still has that echo. It still feels like the same show. I saw somebody said that the window washer reminded them of the way the Woodsmen move. Which is kind of actually almost interesting enough. There could be some spies out there trying to figure out what they're up to, and window washer, kind of almost classic, bad spy movie, trick to have a window washer out there. We find out that Diane may be the estranged stepsister of Janie E.
The E stands for Evans, apparently.
Okay.
Sure. At this point, you can't tell whether or not, who's got the upper hand on who.
Right.
Because they know that she's going to lead them to Vegas.
Right.
So at this point...
And she knows that they are going to ask her about Vegas.
Yes.
It's like...
You can't tell if Mr. C has this all planned out in advance, and he knows he just needs to get them to Vegas no matter what.
Right. Something else too about this is that we've only got a couple of episodes left of the show. Like, they can't dilly-dally a lot more with like trying to get to Vegas, try to get to Dougie. There are 23 Douglas Joneses in the Las Vegas area. And how are the FBI going to be able to find all of them?
This is what we do in the FBI!
And by the way, those two guys, they seem like maybe mildly more competent than the Fusco brothers.
We don't know yet.
Like,
Time will tell.
Like, they can't bumble around for 2 episodes, wait for Prince to come back, anything like that. Like, this has to go quick style.
I knew this was going to be my favorite episode right when Gordon Cole says,
And last night, I had another Monica Bellucci dream.
I just sunk into my couch and went, yes!
So, to me, this is like David Lynch doing like a David Lynch perfume commercial as a dream with very like self-aware recognition that he is now David Lynch doing David Lynch in a David Lynch movie.
We're like the dreamer who dreams and then lives inside the dream.
Okay, but whose dream is it?
Right, that's the question. That's the question she poses.
I don't even want to start listing off names or anything, but obviously it could be anybody.
I'll toss a couple out there.
Okay.
David Lynch. Mark Frost. Those are mine right now.
The audience, us.
Yeah, I'm going outside of the plot on this one. This feels so much more meta than just like a plot angle. I think this is almost like Lynch and Frost like admitting that there's like a sort of, you know, self-discovery angle to the concept of the whole series.
Please just don't end on the last scene with someone waking up from a dream. Please.
Yeah, I don't want that. Something else, Dale Cooper is there, although he can't see Dale's face.
Not yet.
And he's able to sort of look back in time to the moment in Fire Walk with Me when Philip Jeffries appears at the FBI office. Some very astute viewers noticed that there was a slight dialogue tweak between the original Fire Walk with Me scene and the scene in the show.
Apparently they got a voice actor to do his lines over.
What's great about this is that moment in Fire Walk with Me has stood out for so long, and to like kind of finally have it recognized again. I think we sort of saw this coming. But the last time I watched Fire Walk with Me, that scene was bothering me. Not because like I knew David Bowie wasn't coming back to the show or anything like that, but it was just that like him pointing right at Dale and saying that was just like, okay, how much of this did they know 25 years ago? Last little detail in that scene is that as Monica Bellucci is talking, she's got her hands in a very like specific sort of gesture that some people have pointed out looks like a Twin Peaks symbol. Okay.
Back at the Twin Peaks Police Department, we start off with the gang sending Chad up the river.
And you are under arrest.
Chad, fuck!
So long, asshole. Next up, Truman, Hawk, Bobby, and Andy finally head into the woods to the location on Major Briggs' secret note. They arrive at Jack Rabbit's palace.
We can sit here and make up great tall tales.
From there, they put the soil in their pockets and head 253 yards east to the exact location on Major Briggs' note. When they arrive, shit gets really weird. There's a cloud of smoke and a naked woman lying on the ground. It's the woman with no eyes that Cooper saw in part 3. According to the credits, her name is Naido. The clock hits 2:53, portal opens up, and then we get one of my favorite scenes of the entire run of The Return and maybe Twin Peaks in general. Andy goes to the White Lodge.
Andy suddenly has an object in his hands and smoke forms above his head. He looks up at the ceiling and watches a neat Nothing But the Hits Twin Peaks clip show. We get the birth of Bob, the old convenience store with the woodsman, the pain and sorrow brought to the town of Twin Peaks, a picture of Laura and two angels, because, you know, duh. A clip of Naido, Cooper and Mr. C, a phone ringing, Lucy and Andy, Naido again, and the electrical post with the number 6 from part 6 and Fire Walk with Me.
Once everything is downloaded into Andy's brain, he tells the gang they need to protect Naido.
We need to get her down the mountain. She's very important, and there are people that want her dead.
Lastly, at the beginning of that sequence, when they get out of the car before they go to Jack Rabbit's palace, there's a humming, buzzing electrical wires.
Yeah.
And that just got me thinking, like, you know, electrical wires are everywhere and they're like spread out over the landscape, and electricity is like sort of like the evil technology, and it's sort of spreading its tentacles out over the pristine wilderness. And it gave me this kind of sense of dread where it's like,
they're watching over right now, everything they do.
It's everywhere.
Next up, we get Lucy giving Naido her pajamas that were in her locker. Chad and another guy are locked up down there. The other guy is a drunk, bleeding from his mouth, and mimics everything in the room. Chad is basically in his own personal hell.
Which I think he totally deserves.
Give good policemen a bad name.
Also, something else, the drunk looks really messed up. There's something really bad about his face, and I like that this is still continuing that like Cronenberg-esque body horror, that like there's the continuing mystery of like what the heck is wrong with the bodies of people in Twin Peaks.
Drugs, you don't know what it is just yet. Just when you thought you finally had the show figured out, we get a guy with a magic green glove. I know nothing.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
At the Great Northern, we find out that James is a security guard. Oh, and it's his birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Jimmy. This is a real occasion.
Here we meet Freddie Sykes. He has a green rubber glove, and apparently he's destined to be in Twin Peaks.
Once you've got the glove on, go to Twin Peaks, Washington, United States of America, and there you will find your destiny.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Sure.
It would be awesome to see Freddy arm wrestle Mr. C or something to that extent, but the storyline may end with something very anticlimactic. It just doesn't seem like they would have a scene where he punches Mr. C or something weird happens. I think it's going to be something completely different than anything we think of.
Well, he probably won't take out Mr. C, but he could get Chantal or Hutch or something like that. But I gotta admit, the very first thing I thought about was arm wrestling.
Me too.
Our starting position's more comfortable.
This scene also raises a few nagging questions. If the fireman could open a vortex in some random London alleyway, what is up with this epic search for coordinates over the entire season and up to the last 25 years? At some point, wouldn't Major Briggs ask, "Hey, fireman, can you hook me up with a portal to over here or over there?" Furthermore, if the fireman could talk to this London party animal so succinctly and clearly, why the F did he speak in codes and riddles to Dale and in wild, confusing imagery to Andy? And furthermore, what's with this elaborate plan to convince this kid from England to go to Twin Peaks? Wouldn't it be simpler to find a dopey party animal in Twin Peaks and lead him to a much closer green gardening glove? The message is so straightforward, but the plan is so convoluted. How do we even know that he saw the actual fireman? I mean, this is more the MO of Duncan Todd.
Modus operandi!
Anyway, this part ends with James checking out the furnace room where we again hear the mysterious ringing sound of the Great Northern Hotel. People have fairly pointed out that this would be the furnace room at the end of the European version of the Twin Peaks pilot, where Dale Cooper and Sheriff Harry Truman find Bob, who is murdered by Mike.
And now for our weekly check-in with Sarah Palmer.
Do you really want to fuck with this?
We're cool. It's all good. You know what? You have a nice night.
In short, Sarah Palmer gores a truck driver at the Elks Point No. 9 bar. Shortly before that, she does a Laura Palmer-style face-off, revealing a swirling cloud of electricity, a hand with a darkened spirit mound finger, and a spooky grin. Going back to the sort of blue rose theme of the episode, I'm starting to think that there could be two Sarah Palmers. Like, there is a hysterical, panicked, frightened Sarah Palmer, and then we also see this Sarah Palmer who is cold, calculating, and now can gnaw someone's neck off.
Yeah. Sure is a mystery, huh?
Could it be that the thing in Sarah Palmer's kitchen is Sarah Palmer?
I kept watching that boxing scene over and over just to see if there were two different Sarah Palmers that are walking in and out of that room. Couldn't tell.
Couldn't tell. But we do know now really conclusively that there is something way scarier than Mr. C.
Yep.
in the show. Part 14 closes out with yet another detached scene at the Roadhouse. However, this time the two women, Megan and Sophie, are talking about the missing Billy and, to a lesser extent, Paula's sweater, which Megan borrowed, or stole. The main thing here is that Megan gives a gory account of the night Billy went missing.
And there was blood coming out of his nose and mouth. He goes and hangs his head in the sink. Blood's just gushing like a waterfall.
What ties this together even more is that Megan says her mom is named Tina, which we can infer is the Tina who Charlie called in part 13. That would make Chuck Megan's uncle, not Tina's husband, for everybody trying to make sense of the Roadhouse Audrey Horne plot.
Charlie!
Alright guys, we're gonna get into Easter eggs and some theories we have, and a few comments too.
Many people noticed in the closing credits that this episode was dedicated to David Bowie. And to me, I hate to say this, I think that means we're not getting any new Bowie material. You know, they pulled an old shot out of Fire Walk With Me, and that's what they used, and they chose this time to dedicate the episode to him. I think that's what we're getting. Another thing that I liked was at the beginning of the Twin Peaks Police Department scene. At the very beginning, Andy is perfectly arranging these matching Twin Peaks Police Department lunch boxes, and they bring in a box of sandwiches from the Double R Diner, and he's placing the sandwiches out and saying exactly what they are, and that just made me think instantly of the scene in 2001 where they're going out to the Tycho crater to see the monolith, and these guys who know nothing about what is happening, and they're just like hapless twits, all they're talking about is how good the sandwiches are in space. It just reminded me of that.
Also, that Jack Rabbit's Palace wood scene felt a lot like Wizard of Oz, which, hey, makes sense for this episode. We already had David Bowie, like we said before, from the Fire Walk With Me scene. My favorite line of that whole entire thing is,
I'm not going to talk about Judy. In fact, we're not going to talk about Judy at all. We're going to keep her out of it.
Gordon? To this day, until Frost and Lynch tell us otherwise, many fans and I have theorized that the Judy he's talking about is Judy Garland, aka his nickname for Garland Briggs.
Ah, that makes sense.
Garland? An odd name. Judy Garland?
Hence, he doesn't want to talk about Judy because the guy right there next to him, he assumes is Mr. C/Bob and not Dale Cooper. Hell, goddamn, baby, I found something. All right.
Something cool from Ramon Torrente on Twitter. Andy's little wooden memory box that he gets from the Fireman actually seems to resemble some of Lynch's artwork from the past. Actually, you should just go over to his Twitter. We've put it in the description. There's a lot of comparisons of Lynch's art to parts of Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yeah, when you're done here, go straight to that. It's pretty freaking awesome.
DeJombo1 in the YouTube comment says, after watching this episode with Audrey, I personally believe Lynch is not just rearranging these timelines and sequences, but showing different dimensions. A sort of subconscious and conscious in Twin Peaks. I specifically think about how the people in the diner are changed just in a frame during that credit scene. Also one of the different frames including the missing Billy storyline like in Audrey scenes. I have a hunch that Audrey scenes are not based in reality, and the corresponding storyline during the diner scene makes me also believe that some scenes in Twin Peaks are not based in reality. This is actually kind of a good point, which is that most of the time when we've been talking about the different timelines, we've been talking about where events occur in relation to each other. And the idea that there actually are that there is a conscious and a subconscious to the town, or that there are different dimensions, actually takes things to a different level. That is totally plausible.
Coffee time.
Thanks everybody for watching. We only have 4 episodes left. We'll see you all next week. Again, if we missed anything, let us know in the comment section down below.
And you can always hit us up on Twitter throughout the week, even leading up to the next episode. Our handles are in the description below.
Later, guys.